Do you have regrets? More importantly, do you have gay regrets? Apparently, we all do, if you're being honest. Welcome to No Two Gays About It, the show for the over 50 gay male, all about things that are important to those of us over 50, and hosted by two, you got it, over 50 gay men. Hi, I'm Tom Burke.
And I'm Michael Foley.
And today we are going to take a look at life's regrets, especially gay regrets. What are they? Does everyone experience them? Spoiler alert, yes. And how can we use them to move forward and thrive in our next chapter of life?
Okay, Tom, I have a big question for you. But before we get started, if you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to click like and subscribe and ring that little bell if you want a notification when a new video drops. So are you ready, Tom?
Okay, what's the question?
Gay regret. Gay regret. Give me a little bit more info on that one.
All right. Well, first of all, what is a regret? You know, a lot of people said that they don't have any regrets in life, which is not true because no one has lived a charmed life where every choice or pathway that they went down was exactly the right way. But there are also, and I have read up so much about regrets this last week, and I found this whole area of gay regrets. And what's really kind of unique is that this whole area of gay regret is specific to gay men and gay men of our age and older. You know, we've done so many shows about all of our experiences, and all of us over 50 have these shared experiences. We've lived through the same life occurrences, things that are happening. And so we all are sharing these same sort of gay regrets. One of the biggest areas of regret all centers around coming out. The first one is not coming out soon enough.
Right.
A lot of people kind of were afraid to come out, wasn't the right time to come out. It just wasn't working for them. But what was really kind of sad to read, which I know we've already talked about this as well, so many men, mainly older than us, 70 and over, regret coming out when they actually did. Because they came out way before the world was ready for them or wanted them to be out.
But that's an interesting one, because I would think their coming out is what allowed the world to be where it is now.
Well, if you think of like, you know, in the 50s or 40s or whatever, if you were coming out, even in the 60s, you were coming out and being like this proud gay man, and you were in an industry where, no, you cannot be that. A lot of men lost their careers, lost their families, their friends.
Or if you were in the military, you lost your
Exactly.
livelihood and your goals.
Which happened to my husband. My husband was kicked out of the army because they found out he was gay. Unbelievable, right? And that was in the 70s. The regrets around this whole coming out, not only not coming out soon enough or coming out too soon, but also the way people came out. There's a lot of regret around that. People were forced to come out, or they chose to come out, you know, too soon, too fast, too whatever. It's unfortunate, but there is a lot of this gay regret that all centers around this whole idea of coming out, which, as we all know, well, maybe not you, Michael, because you kind of did this better than most of us, but coming out is such a traumatic thing. You know?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was traumatic for me as well. I think it's traumatic, even if you're comfortable in your own skin, and you were in the place that I was in. It's still traumatic. I lost friends that I thought would be my friends for my entire life. You know, people that I grew up with. It's traumatic, and you're right. I think a lot of us don't deal with that baggage until we get older, and hopefully, you know, that regret becomes something that we don't regret anymore, that it formed us into the people we are, you know. And another one of those things besides friends is family. Because when we were younger, acceptance was not given, you know, at all. So I would imagine I know with me, and, you know, fortunately I did my work, is that there was so much regret when I was younger to the family I thought I should have had.
Right.
The Brady Bunch or the Partridge Family, where you had these accepting parents, and that wasn't the case. And, there was always this regret. Like, my mother and father were divorced when I was 3, and there was never a father in the house. So we have all these regrets tied to family as well, right. I think.
Totally. And that's not a gay thing. That's an everybody thing. Yeah. We all have these shared regrets of family and friends, and it just not being what we wanted, or it didn't turn out the way we wanted. But you're so right, where this gay population does share this regret of the relationships that happened after coming out. And
I'm going to go back to your initial statement about gay regret.
Yeah.
Because we are unique in that regard. Because if you're born into a family, usually there's unconditional acceptance. And when we come out, that acceptance a lot of times was taken away because they perceived a change in us.
Right.
And the change was actually in them. So I think, there's the answer to that question. That is what gay regret is, right?
Well, yeah, it's a big part of that. But, also we as the gay person kind of put on to other people, oh, my mother won't accept me, or my mother won't let me come out, or, we also put feelings onto other people because it was all such a new thing that we were all going through. And it wasn't like we had the internet, like, coming out stories, who feels like I do. We didn't have that. So the whole thing is just this whole big mess that we kind of had to find our way through, which is why we now, old gay guys, we all share these experiences, and we can, as you said, all use them to kind of have a better life now.
Yeah. I got to add one more as the single man in this duo that we are, relationship regret.
Well, there's this whole area of relationship regret. There are people who are regretting the relationships that they made. A lot of people stayed in relationships that they didn't feel that they should stay in. Yeah. A lot of people didn't kind of go for that relationship or didn't stay long enough. So yeah, there's a ton of regret. And again, it's something that we as a group share because we did not have models in front of us. We didn't have older gay men showing that this is what a relationship can be, or, so we didn't know what we were doing. And
I think there's still a lack of that in community.
Oh,
in our community, where relationships aren't valued or respected in what I believe is the way they should be. It takes a lot for two people to make a commitment and stick it out. And I don't think you guys get that kudos that you deserve and the respect that you deserve. So.
Well, thank you for that. Yeah. And I do have to agree with you that we get a lot of flack from single guys like you, being hurled at us, people in relationships. And again, it's just nobody understands each other, and no one's really kind to each other. But that's totally a part of it. Another part of these regrets that men our age are carrying around, not only around the relationships, but also around sex. There's a lot of regrets that go around sex, of course. One of them is people who regret being as promiscuous as they were or are. And then on the other end of that, people are regretting that they were not promiscuous enough, that they didn't have enough sexual.
Can we not call it promiscuous? That there's a negative connotation in that. How about sexually active?
Okay, but that's fine. But let me ask you, I don't see it as a negative. Word,
I always found
why do you feel
promiscuity, that word was always tied to something negative in our society.
Okay.
Especially when it was directed at women. if a woman had a number of sexual partners, she was promiscuous and
Right.
sort of shunned, where if guys were doing it, then they were just guys, and that made
Yeah.
them more manly. So yeah, that's just me. That word promiscuous is a little, maybe being raised Catholic, that also has something to do with it.
It could be. I mean,
Yeah,
I just took the word.
let's say sexually active.
Okay, I just took the word straight from this study that I
Right,
read.
right,
So,
yeah,
and it's funny because when I read it, I didn't think negatively, but now I can see how people, do see that as a negative
yeah.
word.
Especially our generation, right? I mean, because there was so much shame and you had to hide your sexuality, even if you were straight,
Right,
where you were, masturbation, you're going to hell, or there was so much shame tied into our sexuality
right.
that it's just weird that word promiscuity pushed the button for me. So, yeah,
That makes sense, though. But
interesting, right?
again, back to regrets. A lot of people are regretting that maybe they did have too many sexual partners, and then there are that other people who are thinking, "I didn't have enough." Especially the older men in our generation or the generation above us, they didn't have the chance to have that much because it all had to be hidden and
Right.
whatever. They couldn't be
Or
out and proud.
or they got married,
Yeah.
and lived a heterosexual
Right.
life for. I just went out with somebody this past week and we had coffee where he was married until he was 36 and
Yeah.
did not denied, who he was for the sake of, let's say, quote unquote normalcy, which is just so ridiculous because his normalcy was a gay man. And yeah, he was like, I was 36 and now I feel like I have all this to make up for. And I sort of reminded him, I'm like, you have 2 kids. That's a pretty amazing gift. So it's not like,
Right.
there's always a trade off. When you pick one road,
Right.
you don't know what existed down the other road. So just be happy on the road you are and sort of make peace with the potholes and the, ditches we fall into.
And that's what we want to get to by talking about this. And again, Michael and I are just starting conversations that we want all of you to continue for us. But the idea of having a regret doesn't have to be a negative thing.
Right.
Like that male, yes, I didn't come out as gay. I married someone. I had these 2 kids. So how can that be a regret when you have 2 amazing children?
Yeah.
It just making different choices. A regret could be a positive thing that propels you into a whole new direction. But we'll get to that. Back to more regrets centering around sex. This is one, a really huge one. A lot of men regret having sex without protection, and then acquired some sort of STD or something, right? I can see where you would have that as a regret. But you can't dwell on it. You can't let that define who you are, obviously. But yeah, I mean, that hopefully then you can use that regret in the future or now to be out there talking to younger generations saying, use protection, get out there, use everything, spin it positively, somehow.
Yes, I think
right?
that's the bottom line here is regardless of what it is or what arena
Right.
you're in, that the positive spin is what's going to make the difference between a happy life or a not so happy life.
Right. Okay, more gay regrets, not living out and proud. A lot of people weren't able to do that in their lives and regret not being able to, get out there and be gay and crazy and wild and be part of Pride because of where they lived, because of who they were, and they regret that. But
If you're in a small town, you don't have the luxury of popping over to Manhattan and joining in the gay pride parade. It's a tough one, but
then on the other hand of that, there are men who are regretting living too out and too proud. Instead of this is from the study, living too out and too proud instead of living practical with sights on the future.
Ooh, that one rubs me like promiscuity did.
Why?
Because I'm not sure there is a what is that? What is too out and too proud? That's, you're living your truth. How is that a bad thing? So that's an interesting.
Well, the thing is, I mean, you can live your truth, but you also got to read the room. Like if you're in a conference at some business meeting, something, you can't be like, "Hey, girl, hey," like,
Okay. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yes, I do.
Sometimes it's a little too much, and it's too much for, like, no woman is going to be like on the table doing a striptease. Like, for everybody, there's a little too much. You know what I'm saying? It's not just about being gay.
Yeah, I think there's a fine line there. Line there. You wouldn't walk into a board meeting with a rainbow shirt on and
right
a tutu.
Right, but just as you were like bothered by that, a lot of people, especially younger gay men, are like, well, all that shit. I'm just going to be me, whatever, without thinking maybe this isn't the right place, maybe this isn't the right time. But they were so adamant in, I want to just be authentically me. Well, that goes for everybody, though.
See, again, that's a tough one, because what is the right time? I think of, if you look back at our roots,
yeah,
there was that Stonewall moment that completely shifted our community's mentality into what is the right time. The right time is when you're tired of being oppressed. And you know what? Let's say you do decide to go into a board meeting with a rainbow shirt and a tutu, but you do your fucking job, then why not? Because that's who you are? No, I understand, because I get what this question is implying, that you have to worry about someone else's reaction. But that goes back to when is the right time to push that boundary to make somebody feel a little uncomfortable, so they just get a little bit of a window into what your entire life has been.
There's a difference, though, Michael, between a little window and a huge sliding glass door.
Yes. I'm not going to bring my boyfriend into the boardroom and bend him over the table and have at it. But again,
but just as, like, okay, what if you were in a board meeting and some guy came in with his Make America Great Again hat and his Trump flags, and he was like, Trump is the best thing, whatever, is that appropriate in the workplace? No. But he's living his truth.
It's not. But you know what? For me, in that moment, if it's a board meeting, I'm going to ignore it and allow whoever is responsible for it to say, this is the wrong time, wrong place, sit down, let's have a meeting. But that's part of free speech, right?
It is.
As much as I disagree with it, it is part of free speech. And it would be hypocritical to deny someone that and then expect them to accept me without any issue or any reservation.
I agree that it's free speech, but you also have to, there's decorum and, rules and etiquette and for everywhere you are, and you have to follow those as well.
And a time and a place, right?
Exactly. Read the room. All right, let's move on to another gay regret on my list here. Has all to do with our professions in life, right? Either choosing the wrong profession or staying with a profession too long that didn't make you happy.
Yeah, I think that's a big one for a lot of people. They get stuck in a job and then the security is there and they're not happy, but they stay because it's the devil that you know.
Right. But also, choosing the wrong profession. I mean, I remember being in college, freshman year, 17 or 18 years old, where you have to now choose the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Choose your, major, and this is what you're going to do for the rest of your life. Even, people who are in pre-med or whatever, what kind of doctor are you going to be? There's a bazillion kind of doctors. We should be able to live a while before we choose where we're going to go, And
wouldn't that be a great thing? Like once you graduate high school, you have to take 2 years off and explore life before you can start college at the age of 20. Just to get a little bit of, I don't know, just to get a little bit of life under your belt.
Well, there are
no 16-year-old. I remember, taking the PSATs where it was like you had to choose your career, or depending on your test results, they would tell you where you fit in, right? And that's for our generation, that was a lot, because I think a lot of us did wind up places that we were probably wouldn't have wound up if we had a little bit more life experience.
Well, well, yes, definitely, but also you nailed another, you hit another nail right on the head by saying, back then and for our generation,
Yep.
we had certain jobs that men did and certain jobs that men did not do. And you had to do those men jobs,
Yeah, you couldn't be a nurse if you were a guy.
Right?
Right.
I mean, unfortunately, I still kind of think like, oh, there's a male nurse. That's how weird. Like those things are still in our head that were instilled from our childhood. But yeah, so I've got to choose this manly thing because
how many times were you asked, as even like when you were in grammar school, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah. Constant,
it's like, shut up and just let me grow up first, right?
Right.
Why do I have to pick now at the age of 8?
Right. And then it was, for me where I grew up and I went to this prep school, it all had to be these like really elevated, you had to be so important and you couldn't just be some, you
couldn't be a social worker, right? You had to be a banker
so much
or
pressure
a
on it.
Yeah.
And even I got that pressure from my own family. My father was CEO of an investment banking firm. And it was like, yeah, this is what you're going to do. Wow. You're going to take over this company. And I was like, no, I can't do that. Luckily, I did not go that direction, but I do know so many people who just fell in line and did what they did. And then, as you said, the devil that they just stayed there. They're making good money. I might as well just stay here. I'm incredibly unhappy, sad, But again, that's not just a gay regret. That's an everybody regret. Right. Professionally, we all kind of go in this direction that we feel we're supposed to. More regrets, and this is big in the gay world, I know for sure, focusing on our bodies. Number one, especially men our age and older, not taking good enough care of your body. Not kind of when you're younger thinking, oh, you know what? I've got to really take care of what's going to carry me through the rest of our lives. We never really thought about that. No.
Or that, there's a particular age where you might want to stop partying because, right. Drugs and alcohol when you're 40 and 50 have a very different reaction on the body than when you're in your 20s.
Oh my God, right? I have like half of a cocktail and I have to have a nap. It's crazy. Also, though, there is, and this is for a lot of men our age and even older, people who are focusing so much on what the body looks like and not the health of the body. Always on those diets, always now they're all taking, all those drugs to lose the weight, or a lot of men taking steroids or hormones to hold on to our youth in a way, not doing really great for the health of our bodies.
Yeah, because there is a long-term effect, regardless of what you're taking. It causes liver damage. It could cause, steroids cause joint damage.
Right.
To that soft tissue that's in your joints. You could completely lose it. And anything you're taking has to be filtered through your liver.
Right.
So, to remember that, oh yeah, there's an inside of my body as well, not a bad thing.
Right. Especially, and unfortunately, so many men our age and older are now at that point where they're like, why can't I stand up? Oh yeah, because I was taking all those steroids and looked amazing for so many years. Was it really worth it? Maybe not, but, maybe if you got what you wanted out of it, maybe it is. I don't know. This is a big regret. And we have talked a lot about this in our show. It's not planning for the future. We did a whole show on money, about not being ready for that. We did a show, Are You Prepared for All of the Stuff That's Coming? Not planning is a big regret for a lot of gay men.
Yeah, and that's another, I think, that's another thing that's so unique to our generation. If you're over 50, you lived through the AIDS crisis where you weren't promised a tomorrow. And so a lot of us sort of went balls to the wall and, did what we wanted to do when we wanted to do it. and weren't really thinking ahead to where am I going to be when I'm 65? Because, I know for me, 65 was not even a thing that was in my consciousness. It was like, there's no way,
Right.
So yeah, that's a really good one. I like that one a lot.
So the next one that's connected to this touches me a little bit more than you. Planning too much and acting too little. When I was 30, was planning to be 65 and needing to
Wow.
have
Good for you.
everything set. And I wasn't out there doing as much as I probably could or should have or wanted to do. I was set financially and legally and everything 25 years ago for my older age, right?
Wow.
And so my regrets in a way are like, maybe I wasn't out having so much fun.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, I was having a lot of fun, but I regret maybe planning a little bit too much, spending a little too much. But then again, 20 years from now, I'm going to be like, yeah, I'm pretty glad I didn't go to the bars every night or whatever that I felt I was missing.
Right.
I mean,
But for me, it was travel. Like
yeah,
I love to travel, and I've been so blessed to have traveled the world.
yeah,
Um, but there was a lot of that obviously ate into my financial stability in the future.
right.
Um, but honestly, I don't regret it at all because I think travel is one of the most amazing things you could do for yourself. You learn so much about, because as Americans, we have such tunnel vision on how it's supposed to be, and
Right.
it's not the way the rest of the world thinks. So it's an education, and yeah, that's. I never looked at it from your angle though, where you would have, because you have that financial stability, which I look at now and I'm like, son of a bitch, I should have done that.
Right. But I mean, I traveled the world as well. I did do so much. I just made sure that I also, while doing all of that, was really planning and getting ready for what was coming. But, for the thing is, with all of these regrets we're talking about, the grass is always greener, right?
Yes.
Like we said, there's always the other side, the person who feels that they came out too soon, to the other person who felt they came out too late, there's the grass is always greener. And that's why we have to just accept these regrets we have and learn how to kind of use them for the future. Before we get to that part, which I think is the most important part for us, I did read this amazing book. Also, in doing this research, it was written by Daniel Pink, not to be confused with Thomas Pink, the amazing shirt designer from London. But he wrote this book, How Looking Backward Moves Us Forward, all about how to use our regrets in a positive way. And it was great because he puts regrets in 4 different categories. And it was funny because I was reading through the whole list of the gay regrets, and I'm like, yeah. But then when I saw these 4 categories, I was like, oh, for me, this is making a little bit more sense in a way. So I just want to quickly go over those to hopefully maybe touch the rest of you out there. 4 different regrets. There are the foundation regrets. And those are not laying the really proper foundation for this next chapter that we're in. Taking care of our bodies, taking care of our finances,
Right.
taking care of all of those things to kind of build this amazing foundation, right? Not eating correctly, whatever, all of that stuff. The second category is moral regrets. Regrets, obviously morally, that you feel you did something wrong. And I'm reading this part, and then something hit me. Bullying is a moral regret.
Being bullied or being the bullier?
Being the bullier.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you ever felt like you were bullying somebody, probably not. But even in just words that we say to people, unkind words, or if we're being short with somebody, I tend to I will replay those moments in my head and feel really bad about those.
Right.
So I do can fall into, or I can. Oh, I don't know what I'm talking about. I can kind of relate to this moral regret thing. I didn't think I did at first until I read that word bullying and then kept reading about it. Bullying is also, like as I said, an unkind word or
Yeah,
being,
absolutely. And I mean, we've all done that in a
right.
moment of, whether you're angry or you're tired or you're hungry or you're
Yeah,
whatever, that you snap at somebody, you say something wrong or, something hurtful.
right.
And there is that regret with it that you play it over and over in your head. And
Yeah,
what's,
like even driving home and you're like, oh, why did I say that to that checkout
yeah,
person? It wasn't their fault, that kind of thing. To me, then it was like, oh, that's a regret as well. Yes, of course, we've all have regrets. Nobody can say I have none, right? That just kind of like, whoa, put a little light on things for me.
so does
Then
it
I,
does it help you in those moments to when you have that, oh, I shouldn't have said that to the clerk, that the next time you're in front of somebody that you make an extra effort to go, I'm not going down that road again.
that's the
That
thing, right?
being impatient or being rude
Right.
in any particular situation that's not who I want to be, right?
Right, exactly. That's why we can use these regrets of ours to propel us forward as opposed to, saying, oh no, I don't have any, burying our head in the sand, or being Vicky victim and being like, oh yeah, everything I did is wrong, being those
Yeah.
people, but just being like, yeah, I did things wrong. Next area of regret is connection regrets. This I know we all have too, like, oh, if I only just called them, if I only just reached out, if I just went over and saw them that day, maybe they wouldn't have whatever. Or a lot of regrets with people who pass away and you're like, oh, I should have called them sooner or whatever. Even with friends that have drifted apart, or as we said earlier, a lot of our gay regrets are around relationships. I wish I had kind of fixed that after years and years and years. There's
Yeah.
those connection regrets.
But I mean, the awesome thing about that is if you have that knowledge and you have that acknowledgement, you could do that going forward, right?
Oh, totally.
Did you see
And
the movie? Did you see the movie? Spoiler alert: the hero dies in the end with Jim Parsons.
no,
Beautiful movie, but there was something in that pointed one of those things out to me, and in such a clear way, is that in past relationships that I had, and these are ones that have lasted for more than a few years, I got really bad at saying to somebody, oh my God, you look amazing. Where you just sort of take it for granted, right? You look amazing, or just, my God, you look so handsome today, or I love your body, or just to pay a compliment to that person who you're involved with.
right.
And I swear, from the time I saw that movie, it burned something into my consciousness where I was like, I will never let those moments go by. Where if I'm
Yeah.
dating somebody, that I won't say to them, "You look great," or "I love your body," because it does, it means a lot, and that is a big regret for me that I didn't say that enough in the past.
See, that's what's so brilliant about talking about regret, bringing it out in the forefront. Yes, we can use these to change the path we're on instead of saying,
Right.
no, I have no regrets, right?
And sometimes you're not even aware of it. And that's what was so amazing about this moment in this film. It was a moment, wasn't a huge moment, but it was a moment that resonated with me so deeply that it was like, I have to change that behavior, where you're not necessarily aware of it, right?
Right.
And
Brilliant. Yeah.
until somebody taps you on the shoulder and is like, hey, just so you know. And it made such an impact on me. It's kind of remarkable how those
Fantastic.
little moments can change you on a core level.
Well, hopefully we're changing some core levels today too. Oh, by the way, Michael, you look really handsome today.
So do you. I love your black sweater and your blue collars peeking out there.
It's a blue sweater. Thank you very much.
It
It's just
looks black
navy.
here.
Yeah, I know. It's just dark
Lovely.
navy. All right. Last group of regrets, according to Daniel Pink, is boldness regrets. A lot of people regret not taking the chance, right? And that's even simple things like I was having coffee one day and I saw this really cute guy and I should have just said hello to him. Those little things, just little things like that. Also, major things like why didn't I leave that horrible job that I hated for 40 years? Why didn't I jump out of the airplane when I was 20? Major
why didn't I get out of that unhealthy relationship?
Exactly. Right. So many bold regrets. Fantastic, right? So if thinking about regrets, you can put all of your regrets into these 4 different sections. Foundation regrets, not building the right foundation for our next thing, moral regrets, connection regrets, and of course, the boldness regrets. And bold can be...
It feels like that bold one is fear-based, right? You're afraid of you're going to be judged. You're afraid of being rejected. And that really cripples us, right? Because we don't take that step.
I think, Michael, that all of these regrets have some sort of fear involved with them.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Connection regrets. What regrets? Why didn't I reach out to that person? Because maybe I was fearing whatever. There's a lot of emotion behind regrets. And one of the things that I read about regrets is regret is actually an emotion that we just have to kind of accept. And one of the reasons why we don't is because if you own or accept that you have a regret, it's your fault because you did something wrong and no one wants to admit that they did something wrong. So they're like, oh yeah, no, I don't do any regrets. I have nothing, But as we're moving forward, now we have to figure out with all of these regrets, our gay regrets, our regular regrets, whatever kind of regret it is, how can we move forward positively with these regrets?
First step, what we're talking about right now, right? You have to acknowledge it.
Totally.
You have to have the awareness and the wherewithal to go, you know what? I might have made a mistake, and then look at it a little closer, right?
Right. Totally. Just owning it. We have to own everything about ourselves if we want to really live an authentic life. And then, as you were saying, we have to learn from them, embrace it and learn from them.
Make peace with them.
Exactly.
Make peace with them to be okay. You know what? I fucked up. But from this moment on, like the regret I had about not telling past relationship partners that you look great.
Right.
Or just, I love you for no reason, right? Because
Right.
that's something you don't get back, but you can pay it forward.
Right. I remember when I was working in New York, and this really is amazing photographer said to me, you've been given a gift and you need to pass it on. And how you can do it as simply as just walking down the street, just smile at somebody. You will change their life that day, right? Just with a little smile, just with a little kindness. And I will never forget that man saying that to me. You've been given a gift, you need to pass it on. And we all have gifts. We all need to pass them on by as simply as just smiling to someone. How easy is that, right?
Incredibly easy, but we get so caught up in our cycles that we forget. And that's where the acknowledgement is so huge.
Right.
Because again, we do get stuck in our patterns.
Sure.
And we just continue to repeat them until you take a step back and go, ooh, maybe I need to work on that. Like you being short with the clerk at a grocery store.
Right.
Or giving somebody the finger in traffic. Is it going to matter in an hour? Probably not. Right.
But is that person going to be like driving thing? Why, like being upset about it? Was it really worth upsetting somebody's life and change? No, it's not. A really great way to deal with regret after you own it, you accept it, and you want to move on with it is by bringing it to somebody else. Like we said earlier, someone who maybe did not use protection and got some sort of STD, go talk to the youth, tell them, this was a mistake I made. You can change it and not make that same mistake. I really believe in passing it on to younger generations. We talked about relationships. I have always, since my husband and I have been together, have felt that we need to be visible to the younger generation. Not that everybody has to be in a relationship, but to show them that it's available to you, because it wasn't available. It wasn't shown to me. I did not see that out there. So even just that, we have to be out there visible. If you have some sort of regret that you feel you've made and you want to change it, can it be through counseling? Can it be through talking to younger people or even older people?
I was just going to say, don't forget about contemporaries, because right. There's this married couple that I know, and they come from the same hometown, and they had it really rough. It was a very bigoted town. The town was actually on Donahue when they were talking about bigotry, and that this town was one of the most bigoted places in America. And so there was a sense of shame that they have in regard to this town. And we were at a game night, and somebody asked the woman, "So where are you guys from?" And she just got this look on her face and sort of froze up. And her husband says, "We don't really talk about where we're from because it was just really rough."
Wow.
And I made a note of it. And later on, it was great because the opportunity to presented itself for me to say to her, "So how come you don't like talking about your hometown?" And she gave me the history. And I said, "Have you ever thought about looking at it as you survived and being proud of that?"
Right.
Because she's amazing and her husband's amazing. And I said, what about that? And she was like, "Oh my God, I never thought of it that way." And again, this is somebody who's in her 50s and has always had a problem talking about her hometown. And now she's like, I'm going to own it. And I'm going to be proud of the fact that I was brought up in this environment and I moved beyond it.
Right.
Right. Which is pretty amazing and huge.
It is huge. I think that's the same for all of these things that we're talking about. Whether you feel it's a negative or a positive, you can't discount the choices you made. Like they all, as you said earlier, they all got us to where we are today, whether it was a good thing, a bad thing, a misstep, a positive thing, whatever it is. So we have to learn how to accept all of them and use them all
right
to propel us forward.
And not only the choices we made, but the environment we were put into. Right. Yeah. And right. to be able to move beyond that and realize, God damn, I survived a lot, right? Is a gift we give ourselves.
Right.
And it burns that regret in a moment, instead of, feeling bad about the town she was raised in and carrying that with her. All of a sudden it was like, damn, I got out.
Right.
And talk about thriving. Her and her husband are remarkable.
That's awesome. But you know who else is awesome and thriving? All of us gay men over 50 who all share all of these experiences. Like, we read through this list of gay regret, and not one of them did either you or I go like, "Oh, that doesn't make sense to me." Like, no, we get it. We all get each other, and we should all be there for each other,
and have conversations about it. Right?
That's what we need to do.
It helps. It gets it out.
Oh my God. That's one of the biggest things, like owning it, acknowledging it, then talk about it to each other, because then it's like, oh my God, you too? Yeah. Like, I went through that same thing, and then it empowers you instead of it being something that pulls you down. Yeah. It's now something,
and then that sense of shame that you might be feeling is all of a sudden, again, like with this woman, it was burned in a minute. Like, I saw the look in her eyes where it was like, I never thought of it that way.
Right.
And that's because she was willing to talk about it.
Right. So that's what we got to get. That's what we want all of you guys out there to do. Share your experiences, share your regrets with us, and then tell us, how did that regret form who you are today? How did you use that regret as a positive moving forward? Or maybe if you're stuck, tell us what your regret is and that you can't move forward with that. And I bet a lot of our listeners, they can, because it's awesome when you guys are out there commenting to each other on all of our sites. It's great. So,
and just to have somebody else chime in and say, I get it. I was in that same place.
Right? Yeah. You're not alone.
Yeah.
That's because seriously, guys, you're not. We're all in this together. We've all been through all of this together. Maybe Michael experienced things differently than me, but I get it because we went through that same time period, those same experiences.
Yeah, the experience may be different, but the emotions are more than likely very similar.
So we need to hear from you guys. So as Michael said earlier, if you are watching us on YouTube, you have to hit like and subscribe, please. Also that little bell, but then leave us a comment. Let us know how you feel about this whole regret topic. And then help us all kind of move forward positively. Michael, how can they get in touch with us?
You guys could reach us across social media, because anywhere you are, we are, at the moniker No Two Gays About It. Just remember it's the number 2. And we are on Facebook, Threads, Instagram, TikTok. And if you want to send us a more private message, you could hit us up at no2gaysabout@gmail.com.
Exactly.
We want to hear from you.
We do. It's awesome hearing from you guys. There's another place that you can kind of join our community. It's over at Patreon. I don't know if you guys know what Patreon is, but it is a way to not only join our No Two Gays About It community, but also help support our show. It's a great place where we can chat back and forth to everybody. You get lots of bonus material. You get to learn more about Michael and I, if that's something you're interested in, and why would you not be? Well, more so interested in Michael and less so in me. But
check out our tiers. Check out our tiers, because Tom and I have this tier that we really enjoy, because we get to do a Zoom call with you and get to know you every month. So yeah, definitely check us out over there and pick a tier that works for you. And yeah, give it a go. See how you like it. And speaking of Patreon, I want to send a very special thanks out to our listeners at the executive producer tier. And that is Lauren Javier, John Bonasante, Ted Zalewski, Jason Cruz, and Kurt Bremer. Thank you guys for the faith and the trust you put in us. We greatly appreciate it.
Yes. All right. So regrets. Oh, we've had a few. What's that?
Not too few to mention.
I did my way. Right. Yeah. Yes. So own them.
Have you heard Shirley Bassey's version of that?
I have not.
Well, see, I knew a lot of drag queens when I first came out. So Shirley Bassey was very prevalent with one of them, that he loved Shirley Bassey.
Seriously, to men our age, Shirley Bassey is awesome. And to a throwback on something you said earlier when you said, their town was on Donahue. The only people that know what Donahue are all people our age, just saying. Yeah. All right, let's get out of here and go clean up all our regrets. Anything else you'd like to join or tell us today, Michael?
I think I'm good. Just guys, leave it in the past. Deal with it, acknowledge it, move on. Life's, got a lot ahead of us. Be happy.
Exactly. All right. Well, until next time, Michael.
Until next time, Tom, thank you. And thank you guys for listening.
Bye.
Bye.